Hi everybody. So I said I would do a series of short videos, 4 of them in total, and the series is entitled Race, R-A-C-E. Appropriate, I hope, but we're going to start with the first letter, the letter R. What's the R for? A reality check, I think, is probably a good way to start with this. So, reality check, what do I mean by that? What I mean is well, let's have a look at who we are, and what it is our ambitions are as far as riding our motorcycles concerned. So I'll try and give you some examples. You could be a road rider, predominantly a road rider. You could often have pillion passengers. You could go and do a little bit of touring on your bike occasionally with friends or girlfriend or whatever it might be. In which case, if you're an occasional track day rider as well, there's very little that you can do to your motorcycle to make it better for the track that isn't going to affect your road riding, unless you spend some very serious money and putting some good suspension on there, and it's just frankly not worth it for a couple of track days a year, whatever it might be. But the next stage is that you might be a track day rider, possibly frequent, but you still use your road bike, but you don't go touring, and you don't really have pillion passengers on the bike, in which case there's another segment of things that you can do to your bike that is going to make it much better for the track and isn't going to cause you any major problems on the road. Next stage is you could be a dedicated track day rider. Most of your riding is on circuit, and you've got a dedicated track day bike to do that, in which case again there's a whole host of things that can be done, and we can go up to the next stage. And then finally a racer. What's the ambition? You racing at club level with an ambition to go to national. You're racing at national with an ambition to go to World Series racing. So it's all sorts of permutations. But the reality check is about you as an individual. Where are you at? You're a frequent track day person, just occasional? Are you a novice? Are you a fast group? Where are you? So in order for you to be able to make the right decisions, it's a good idea to produce a roadmap. Okay? And this is basically asking yourself a series of questions and then looking at those answers, and those answers will kind of dictate where you want to go. So, as I mentioned first time round, if you're a road rider with pillion passengers, etc., then there's really not a great deal that you can do. But if you're a road rider and you don't do pillion passengers and you do a few track days, then there's some really simple stuff that you can do. Changing the weight of oil in your forks and your shock is one way of looking at it. Maybe replacing the springs in your bike is another thing that you could do. And when you put those two things together, it's not an expensive process to do. So changing the springs, changing the oil, the lighter oil will let it move and transition through all the components a lot easier. You'll get a plusher feel to the bike. Having the right springs on there. You've got to remember the bike comes out of the factory, it's designed to take 2 people and go touring, and that's not what you want on track. So that's why I say if you ride solo on the road, there's a fair few things you can do, which are pretty inexpensive, but will improve the ride of your bike, both on the road and on the track. And that same thing kind of applies to you guys that are looking at mainly sort of road riding. You can still change spring rates, etc., if you wanted to, but in my experience, I would say just leave it alone. The bike's been designed to do exactly what you're using it for, so maybe we just stick with that. And then we've got our racers. So where are we there? Are we club level and we've got ambitions, in which case, well, what's the right direction? What is it I want to achieve? I'm just going out there to experience racing. Well, okay, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. That's all good. I'm going out there to learn more about racing because I want to get to national level. Well, that then sort of says to us, any investment that we make now in terms of equipment, we can carry on and use at a later date. So I'm not trying to tell you not to buy stuff. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is buy what you need when you need it. Or if you are going to buy more better stuff now, then understand that you're going to grow into it, why you're buying it, what's going to be the usage on that. And that, you know, in 2-3 years' time, when you're at national level racing, you don't have to change everything on your motorcycle and start upgrading it. So I'm just talking about spending your money wisely. And maybe you're somebody who wants to go MotoGP. You know, maybe you're good enough that you think you might make it up to that level one day. In which case, you know, it's a completely different subject again that we're talking about what you want to invest in now and what you want to be learning now. Because, you know, MotoGP people are pretty much all prototype motorcycles. Most people haven't ridden a prototype motorcycle. Most people don't understand linkages and offsets and God knows what else, swing arm pivots and all these geometry changes, which is something I sort of specialise in. So there are lots and lots of different ways of approaching this. So kind of what I'm saying is sit down and ask yourself a series of questions. Those questions are, you know, what am I doing with my motorbike? What's my predominant use for it? And answer that question and maybe put it down into one of those categories that I've talked about. And then from there you can start to have a clear vision of where you're going to go with things and what you need. But the biggest question that you might want to be asking yourself is who's the fastest, me or the bike? And I've mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. If you're going around Brands Hatch Indy in 56 seconds, and we know that a stock 600 can go around there in sort of 48 with a competent rider on board, then you've got to say to yourself, the bike's still 8 seconds a lap faster than I am. So in reality, what's the point of changing things? There isn't. What there is a point of doing is getting a good setup right from the beginning. Get the static sag done. Look at your compression and your rebounds and make sure the bike is working as it should work, the best it can within its standard trim. And then you've got a baseline and you can work from that. So the more experience you get, your times start dropping, 54s, 52s, 50s, 49s. All of a sudden now the bike starts misbehaving. It's not quite doing what you want it to do. You've got a clear vision in your mind about how you're going to take that corner, but the bike's not doing it. Well, that is the moment. That's when you're going, right, well, it won't do this. So there is the problem. And if that's the problem, we can find the solution. What we tend to do is we try and eliminate all the problems by buying all of this stuff right at the beginning. And of course, it is a bit of ego massage for ourselves as well, a confidence thing that, I've got all this kit underneath me, it's got to be good. And very often it doesn't make any improvements initially. You will grow into it, and when you hit that wall that you'd hit on a production motorcycle, you won't hit it when you've got good stuff on the motorcycle. But in these days when we've all got to watch the pounds and the pennies, especially if we've got to fill a tank up petrol or diesel, we want to be working our money the best we possibly can. And so what I'm trying to do is help you draw out a roadmap that tells you what you want when you want it. And if you've got any issues with that, if you've got any questions with that, don't be frightened. Send me an email, tony@tonyscottmotorsport.com. I'll do my best to give you the best advice I can. Good luck, and we're going to talk about the next series of videos, beginning with A, acquisition, what we're going to buy, why we're going to buy it. So I'm going to post this up onto a YouTube channel. I hope it's been useful to you, and like I said, if you've got any questions, don't be scared to ask. Talk soon.